Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it. You will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I am your host, Samuel, and today we have with us another special guest, and he goes by the name Alexander Frekey. Yes, that is his name, Alexander Frekey, and some of you might recognize that name. He is what I like to call a medical device sales influencer on the LinkedIn platform. But what he does now is a little nuanced. Cardiovascular Electrophysiology. Now, some of you might hear that and say, what in the world is that? Well, I am not going to spoil it, so you better stay tuned. But in this episode, we get into that career that he's doing now. We get into how people that want to get into the medical sales space should approach medical sales reps and the right types of questions they could ask. And we get into something that's very pronounced in medical device sales burnout. So without further ado, I hope you really enjoy this episode. And thank you for listening to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hey, Alex, how are we doing today?
Good. How are you, man?
Fantastic. Absolutely no complaints. I want you to tell the audience who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Alex Frekey, and yes, that is my real last name. I am a territory manager for a company called iRhythm Technologies. It is a med tech service provider for the cardiovascular electrophysiology space, where we have the most in-depth AI system for diagnostic arrhythmia heart monitoring for that space.
Okay, so you sell heart monitors.
Yes.
Okay, and let's get into that a little bit, because there's people listening that have no idea what that actually is. So
Sure.
Talk to us about what it looks like from actually, is this the kind of role you've always had, where you've sold a piece of equipment?
So I sold a piece of equipment. Yeah. So technically, I worked for Medtronic previously in the surgical space. So for the viewers listening out there, like Jacob McLaughlin, he was on my team here in Arizona. I sold surgical equipment for the gynecology division of Medtronic.
Got it. Okay, and now it's heart monitors. So
Yep.
walk to us a little bit about what that looks like. Who are you calling on? What's the day-to-day? What are you actually doing?
Sure. So heart monitors, it's gosh, it fits in the palm of your hand. It goes on above the heart, and it detects about 7 different types of significant arrhythmias. So these are the electrical signals that your heart is producing, and it's trying to find something that is irregular to start a diagnosis for a patient. So let's just do an example. Say you have heart palpitations. You want to go to the emergency room, go to the ED. How do they find that? Well, they give you an EKG, right? Well, EKG strip is read and see how your heart's beating, see how how the ventricles are moving, and if it's beating too fast for like a tachycardia, or a slower for a bradycardia. It's trying to find how your heart is out of rhythm. So it's like choo-choo. So all of a sudden your electrical signals are off, and it could be choo-choo. It finds flutters and things of that nature, but way more in depth than what I'm talking about. But it finds that to start a diagnosis for a cardiologist or electrophysiologist, the doctors who are in sync with the electrical signals of the heart.
Got it. So when you're selling this equipment, who's your target audience, and who are you trying to get to buy into wanting to use your product?
Sure. So a lot of these are put in cardiovascular offices. So any cardiologist, electrophysiologist, interventional cardiologists, for everyone out there, heart doctors, plain and simple.
Got it. So you're calling for million heart doctors. And does this type of sell require more people to buy in to utilizing the heart monitors, or they get to make the decision and that's pretty much it?
So, why I had to learn a little bit different than what I used to do at Medtronic is, hey, listen, the cardiologist could love this device and think this is the best heart monitor for his patients, and it gives them the best data, et cetera. But the people that are involved in putting the heart monitor on, like your medical assistants, your
Uh-huh.
nurses,
Mm.
office managers, this cell in med device is way, way, way more in depth than just saying the doctor, hey, I like you. Like when was it Medtronic with the gynecology division for our hysteroscopes, which were intrauterine for women that take out polyps and fibroids. So hey, we go to the doctor and say you want to use this, it's cool. They say yes. They tell the OR you're in.
Mm.
Well, this is way more in depth where the doctor can love it, but the MA loved the other putting actually physically
Sure.
putting the
Sure.
other patch on to the patient and was doing it for 4 years and doesn't want to switch. So that doctor has a lead MA who is not going to budge. So it's not just the doctor.
Wow.
Yep, at all.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
different.
Yeah. 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 How often does that happen? Is every account pretty much like that,
I'm
or
going to say
is it there?
100%. 100%.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's
So
yes. Uh-huh. You can have, we call them champions. And I know in the med device world, you'll hear that word a lot. You have to have a champion, which you can have administrative champion, which is your office manager, your clinical director,
yeah.
practice manager. And you have to have a clinical champion, which is the doctor. So these two people are going to start the conversation to then talk to everyone else about the benefits and features and stuff to how you're going to bring to their patients.
Okay. I like that. And we are going to go back to your history, but just to make some quick comparisons, let's
Sure.
go back to the role you had when you were with Medtronic. Give us a little bit more detail about that role in the EB and the OBGYN space.
Yeah, so I started off in med device as a sales as an associate, which is usually your entry level position, where I was an assistant to the territory managers here, running trays, which is our hysteroscope. So we sold diagnostic and operative hysteroscopes, which came with a whole bunch of disposables, which were the ones people that they were the products that people buy over and over and over because they get used and tossed away. But there was also capital equipment involved as well, which was a fluid management system, which calculated fluid in and out of a patient while using this product because the dilate a uterus, it has to be dilated with saline. So
Sure.
this machine calculated the fluid in and out and pumped it in, pumped it out, and was more of a scale to see how much fluid is going through the patient and what's we don't want fluid left in the patient. Then was the scope itself, which looked like I call it a really cool GYN laser gun. It looked like a metal laser gun. We had a circle in the back where a blade went through that took out any type of abnormal pathology inside a woman's uterus.
Nice. And in that space, physicians made all the decisions. I mean, you focus on the
100%.
physician, they're the call point, and everybody else kind of follows suit.
Yep. Be what the physician wants is what they get. They're the ones using it in the OR, and no one
Yeah.
else could tell them differently.
How would you say you compare the two different styles of selling, and which one do you enjoy more? And be honest.
Sure. Listen, I'm going to say the surgical cell is easier to get a doctor to use our product was a lot easier than to convince an entire practice to
Mm,
switch a heart monitor. Um, I gotta say I enjoy the heart monitor better because it's more buy-in. They really have to believe in the product to
yeah.
get it for their patients. Where the hysteroscope, I mean, listen, there's three other ones out there that worked really
Got it.
similar, and it all came down to relationships, who the doctor liked more, and they would use that in the OR. And yeah, I'm gonna be honest.
I like it. Okay, let's take it back. Let's get back to college. All
Sure.
right. So you're in college. Was it, you know what? I see a future in medical device, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna study
Yeah.
hard and become that. Or what? What was your track?
So, and the honest truth is, when I was in college, so I double majored, one in business and marketing, and then my other majors in biochemistry.
Okay.
So I wanted to go into pharmaceutical sales. So I graduated college in 2009. And for those of listening, you can Google that. 2009, 2010, the pharmaceutical sales industry died. Everyone got laid off. No way in heck Alex Freaky was
Facts.
getting a
These are
job.
facts.
Facts,
Yes.
yes. So with my education, I don't care how smart I was, no one was getting a job unless you had 20 years of experience and 20 doctors in your pocket to bring on to use your drugs. So I started interviewing and I got a few, I got far in one, and all of them, I'm going to say then, LinkedIn was not around, social media was not
Sure.
really around that much.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law is an anesthesiologist, or he's a nurse anesthetist, and he got me interviews with Stryker and everything. And all of
Okay.
them laughed at me, like, "Dude, you have no experience. You're not going to get in, but we're going to entertain because we like your brother-in-law." And I'm like, "Cool, man. Thanks for the, they were honest, man. They were really honest with me, and
Sure.
I took every conversation I built on each one, and just like some people do today with the networking, I did, but in person.
Okay.
Um, so that was it, man. So I wanted to, but I didn't. I wasn't getting in. I struck out like 100 times. I'm like, okay, well, I got to build my sales experience. I need outside sales. I need sales in general. Was in sales since I was 16. I worked at Foot Locker, GNC, did that whole, part-time stuff. So I got a
Yep.
job, which the emerging technology in the world at the time was the iPhone. Worked at Verizon Wireless. I sold the iPhone, then I
Sure.
went into business
Yeah.
sales. And then I left Verizon. I was a freight broker. So I used to sell LTL trucks and stuff to businesses for their shipping and all that stuff. And then I got back into sales where I worked for a large sports nutrition company in the nutraceutical world, where I worked
Okay.
for them for 7 years, where I was one of the directors of sales, as well as I was
Wow.
also a formulator for them. And I did a whole bunch of different roles in the company.
Yeah.
And then built my resume up to be big enough where I handled lots of money, lots of different accounts, from mom and pop stores to corporate accounts. And then networked my way into Medtronic, where my wife worked in a GYN office, met the doctors. We were close. I'm still close to them today, and they wrote me letters of recommendation, introduced me to reps, and then got my first go at Medtronic.
Nice. 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 And how long were you there?
3 years.
3 years.
Yep,
Wow. So, and you had quite the experience there, learning everything you did in the OBGYN space. So,
absolutely.
talk to us a little bit about that space, because again, there are listeners out there that have no idea what that means. You did explain what you sold, but what's to be expected in the OBGYN space? I don't think that's talked about as much as,
Sure.
spine or sports medicine or
Yeah,
trauma.
it's not the glamorous one, man. You know what I mean? Spine and trauma, cardiovascular, they're always the ones that are like, oh, they're cool.
Right.
Listen, my manager asked me, I'm gonna say, says all listeners out there, I'm gonna be honest with you and everyone out there. My manager asked me, hey, what made you want to get in the OBGYN space? I looked her dead in the face on a Zoom call. I said, do you think I woke up this morning and said, I want to be in GYN? And she laughed, but it was the truth. I told the truth. And it wasn't
Sure.
about the GYN, it was about making my mark at Medtronic. And that was it. So let's get back to GYN. GYN is a great starting point. And I'm going to say this because the doctors are not mean. They're not very mean. They're very calm. Because they're dealing with women and pregnant women all day. They're very nice, actually. And a lot of the doctors in GYN say yes all the time because they're that nice. They'll try you out because
Sure.
you had a great
Sure.
conversation with them. And it's a great way to start and get your feet wet. And I think Medtronic and the True Clear team, it's a great product, great
Hmm.
entry level position as an associate. I learned so much. And GYN is, like I said, it's a simpler, more simplified area where it just focuses on one section of the body, very, 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 very hyper
Right.
local. You're not
Right.
talking about spine up from the neck to the pelvis.
Right.
It's
Right.
easier to learn. Granted, I'm a male. I learned it. I can talk about a uterus more than women can. You know what I mean? So it's a great way to start.
Got it. Great way to start. For all you listeners out there, great way to start. GYN.
Right.
Okay. So, you've enterprised yourself throughout your career. I mean, for you to start with the experiences you've had, work at the nutraceutical company, work in Medtronic, and you've also found yourself a brand on the LinkedIn platform.
Sure.
Talk to us a little bit about how that came to be. When did that start?
Sure.
What allowed for you to be consistent with it and truly develop a brand? Talk to us a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
So what I did is I talked about what I knew. I didn't know a lot about the med device world in general, like the top to bottom, logistics of it. But what I knew is my day-to-day life. So a lot of my posts, if any of you guys follow me out there, they were about what I did during that day and how that translated to something I learned, something that was positive, maybe a great conversation with a doctor. But it was genuine because it was that day's worth of like, hey, I had a call here, I had a case here, I did this, and I met this doctor, I talked about this, and in all in general terms, I didn't mention names or anything like that, but it was about learning experiences that I wanted to pass on to those of you out there that are listeners that were real. It was a real account of what I did to be successful, or even my failures. I put failures on there because I think they're more important than successes. But yeah, I just built my brand on LinkedIn about talking about my day in general.
Yeah, yeah. Where did the transition from Medtronic to iRhythm? How did that happen?
So it was, gosh, I've been at iRhythm since March of this year. Um, I started to as I started to talk on LinkedIn. I'm going to be honest with you. Not one recruiter reached out to me on LinkedIn, but talking about my day because I think they saw that I was so passionate about my current
Right, about what
position.
you're doing. Right,
They were like, "I'm not going to talk to that guy. He's going to tell me to,
right.
go pound sand. So I was like, and I didn't, and honestly, I didn't go on LinkedIn to have people attracted to me so I can get another
Sure.
job at all. It was just
Sure.
genuine information. So I saw some things in the Medtronic division that I was working in that I didn't see a future. And I'm going to tell this to all the listeners out there: if you're in a company and you can't see 5 years down the road on what you're going to accomplish and do and move up and stuff, try to make a transition, because that's a tall tale sign of it. It could be short sighted or a very quick position. Now I was with them for 3 years. It's a great resume builder, but I didn't see myself going further and being a regional or et cetera. Um, so I decided to look outside of Medtronic. I opened my profile up,
Mm-hmm.
talked to a few recruiters, and I'm going to be honest, from November in 2021 till March, I talked to 10 recruiters, interviewed 20 times with a good
Wow.
resume,
Wow.
and it was the hardest interview months of my life. I mean,
Wow.
grueling.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Wow. Okay. Um, what helped you finalize on iRhythm though? That's what was the aha moment for you?
and for me, honestly, it was the connection with my manager. Like we understood, I understood what the the process was in terms of what they were looking for. I understood what they were looking for in a new rep, and we literally just connected. We were talking on the phone after interviews for like 20, 30 minutes of just about
Wow.
business in
Oh,
general.
that's cool.
We
That's
jived
cool.
really well, and we still do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was the her responses to me in terms of like how fast she got back to me and wanted to talk about stuff, and it was the engagement in and also the evolving technology in the company. Of course, that was a
Right.
huge thing. It was what it was in. Cardiovascular is always a great space to be in. It's not dying, and with artificial intelligence is such a big thing right now. The company's on the top of it, so it
Wow.
was a no-brainer in that sense, but
Mm-hmm.
mainly the culture and talking to other reps and the engagement from the manager was huge.
That is fantastic.
Yeah,
So talk to us a little bit about, you've had good experiences. You've gotten to see big company, smaller company. Talk to us a little bit about what it means to be an effective representative, and
sure,
consider both experiences
sure,
when you worked at Medtronic and where you are now. What are the consistent themes you see? Maybe top 3 to 5
sure,
qualities that a good sales rep has in medical sales. So all encompassing.
sure. First and foremost, under promise and over deliver on everything you do. Do never ever tell a doctor or an office you can do something that you cannot pull through ever. Your relationship and reputation is your resume. And if you do not have if that doctor is like that guy's a jerk or whatever, he lied to us, you're done. You're absolutely finished. So always under promise and over deliver. Response time is huge. I mean, I know we all live on our phones, but a quick email back is, "Hey, I can't do this right now. I'll get back to you in a few hours." Blah blah blah. It's such a big thing to know that they got your communication is huge. Um, and also, I think a lot of people out there are so focused on sales, like the sales process, but it's
Mm-hmm.
all an education. So the more you understand your studies for the product line you're going for, the clinical data, and how you can actually just discuss what you do and what you have and the why behind what your product does, the more successful you'll be, not just a car salesman.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Love it. Love it. Okay. So talk to us then a little bit about, these people that are listening right now. You talked about your entry into the medical sales world. Programs like what we have, where help
Yeah,
people get positions. There's all kinds of discourse around. "Oh, I don't know if they're valuable or they're valuable, and you have different examples of it, different
sure.
levels of it. What is your take on programs that help you get into these positions?
So for me, and if I'm talking from a personal sense, is I had no idea. I almost went to the medical sales college. I was even toying with that idea, which no, for all these out there listening, don't do that. Um, listen, these programs are very valuable because I I didn't have the information on what to do, how to network, what kind of research to do. If I were to talk to myself, like I always bring up my buddy Jacob, if I were to talk to myself and Jacob 5 years ago, I would have got in 5 years sooner,
Yeah.
because it's about the experiences you have, but also the industry knowledge of the ins and outs of what they do, what the
Yeah.
reps do, what the managers do, how to have those conversations. And to be honest, what the companies look for and what a good territory manager or associate would do, I didn't know any of that. And I couldn't even get in contact with these people because I didn't know networking like that was such a big deal until today. So your program and programs like yours are very, very valuable because they're going to teach you and show you those different ways of communication, research, and to build your why and why you want to be there.
I love it. I love it. When someone approaches you to ask about getting into the industry, give us some of the big no's, like the
Yeah.
big don't do's that
Yeah.
people can learn from.
All right. So for those listening, if you're going to reach out to myself or again, Jacob, Sam, yourself, others out there, look at their profile, look what they do, look at the company they work for, and just go to the company website to see what it is that they do. Because if you sit there and I get on the phone with you and you ask me, tell me about your day, dude, I can tell you 17 different ways about my day, but get me specific questions that you want to know about what I do. Like, you know, um, how do you set your day up? Or, do you set your goals for the day or something very hyper local to what you want to know? You just ask general questions. I mean, I can give you an answer like, hey, I wake up, I yawn, I put my shirt on. That's a dumb question. So I'm going to use an example, a quick one that someone messaged me. I get on the phone with them. I'm like, hey, I'm driving. Give me a call. Here's my number. I like to talk when I drive. That's it. I don't like talking when I'm sitting at my desk. I like to be doing something. So call me when I'm driving because I usually have 30-minute drives all the time. Call me. They didn't even know what a heart monitor was. They didn't even know what iRhythm was, but they said they wanted to learn more about iRhythm without even Googling iRhythm. Do some
Mm,
research beforehand. I am not Google. You can get
mm-hmm,
a lot done in 5 minutes of looking up a company and seeing what their mission statement is and what they produce. So
mm-hmm.
get a get a good background of what that person that you're talking to does, because it's just going to be a wasted conversation of very generic answers. If you ask
Right.
specific answers, you're going to get you ask specific questions, get specific answers, and have a reason to talk to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well said. Well said. And hopefully people are taking notes. And
Yeah.
let's go back to this. Let's go back to the sales rep. One thing that's really impressive about you is, again, you've enterprised yourself, and I know you have a lot of things that you're doing that speak volumes on the kind of person you are and how you show up in every single facet of your life. You know, as a sales rep that wants to kind of enterprise themselves, maybe they want to be a brand leader like you were. What are some habits that they should take on that will allow them to do so? I mean, I'd like to believe that you've simplified so many things in your life so that allows you to put your hand into different pots and explore. But give us the details. Like, how do you actually make everything work?
Time management is big. And I have an 8-month-old son. He was born in December, and it's
Congratulations.
hard. Thank you. And for those of you mom and dads out there, it's hard to balance everything and finding the happy medium of your career and your extra stuff you do on the side. Maybe you have a side business, whatever it is, you have to time manage and set end times. Like, hey, your workday ends at 5. I don't take personal calls at 6. I'm going to do, set times aside for certain things. Like my wife and I have a schedule where I go to the gym in the morning. Um, she goes to the gym during my baby's bedtime from 7 to whatever. So she leaves the house, does her thing, but time manage so you can set goals and get things done in those time frames. Because with med device, depending on what you get into, your work life balance could be way different in every product facet. So
Nice.
if you really want to do those things and really enterprise yourself and branch out and to do many different things, own a business, do things of that nature, time management, even in your career, is crucial.
Got it. Time management. And so you have an 8 month old son. You're
Yep.
married.
Yep.
You're a busy guy. Talk
Yep.
to us a little bit about what refuels you. You know, how do you keep your energy going? How do you stay after it and high functioning and all
Yeah.
responsibilities that you have?
So other than highly caffeinated drinks, of course, you know, my family's motivation. I do everything for my wife and son. They're the forefront of everything. Like when I'm getting tired throughout the day, I just think of like what I got to get done to be successful for them. That's mainly it. Um, but do other things in your life. Depending on the facet medical device you want to get into, I think you should branch out and have a side business or your hobby and your passion you should do as well. Personal training, Etsy, I don't care what it is, but get your mind away from your career so you can
Mhm.
focus on something else and then come back to it in the morning, like or on the weekends. So you have multiple things going on that you don't get burnt out by your career because it will burn you out. Medical device is, I think, 6 to 24 months is the time people are like, oh my God, I can't do
Very
this.
good.
So have other things you're doing throughout your week that separate your time from your career that are extra and stuff like that. That's what I recommend. That'll
No,
refuel you. And I think that's really it.
that is so. I love that you mentioned that because I talk to a lot of device reps, and burnout is a consistent theme. But what I've noticed is, especially new reps, right? Because we're helping people get into positions,
Yeah.
and then I'll talk to them a year later, and they're kind of like, "Whoa, Samuel, I had no idea I'd be this
Yeah.
busy."
Very.
What are some of the things that the reps listening right now that are device reps out there? What are some of the kind of telltale signs to watch out for and get in front of if you're starting to feel that burnout?
Um, be upfront and honest with your manager, I think, and what you're doing throughout your day and talk to your superiors on some tips and tricks. Talk to other reps in the med device world in your division, because everyone goes through it, and it's just how you circumvent getting burnt out. I'm burnt out every at the end of every day, but in terms of like really like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore type of feeling.
Right, right.
Um, really I mean, the reason why you want to be with a company in a certain product line is you have to like it and really get behind it, or you're going to get burnt out because it's going to be monotonous for you and it's going to be like, I don't really care about what I'm doing. You have to care, but
Right.
talk to your superiors and let them know you're going through these things because they've been doing it a lot longer than you have. That can help you with more tips and tricks and on a, hey, listen, try to structure your day this way. Do talk to your
Sure.
doctors this way. And a lot of managers, especially good ones, will be receptive and really love that you're honest with them about, hey, listen, I need some coaching on this. And that's my recommendation. I know I can go to my manager anytime and talk to her about what I'm going through. I had a meeting with her yesterday about a big account that we're talking about, and she's like, hey, yeah, you seem like you're frustrated. I'm like, no, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen and I'm getting so many different avenues on what's going on.
Mhm.
How can we
Mhm.
narrow this down? And that's straight face to face told her that, and
Yep.
and we had a
Yep.
great plan and a great talk.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Alex, I love it. Is there any other messages you want to give the audience that's listening today?
Um, have your purpose on why you want to get into it. At the end of the day, listen, all of you out there, there's good money in med device. I'm not going to lie, but you know, there's good money in being a car salesman too. Have a reason why you want to be in med device. Everyone's going to say, I want to help people. You do help people to an extent. But at the end of the day, numbers matter. Numbers are what is going to keep your job, get you paid, increase your
Mhm.
your your commission, things of that nature. Have a reason why you want to be in there, other than money and other than helping people. Be um, is it the thrill of it? Is it you like talking to the doc? Whatever it may be, find it and
Mhm.
live by it. Because if you
Mhm.
don't, that burnout will come sooner than later.
Mm. Sage advice. Thank you for that, Alex. All right, Alex, before we wrap up, I want to have a little bit of fun with you. And I
Sure,
am going to ask you about four questions. I think it's four. And you're going to give me the first answers that come to mind.
sure.
And you're going to have less than 10 seconds to get them out. You ready?
Okay. Yep.
All right. Best book you've read in the last 6 months?
How to be a dad guide part one.
Wow. Who wrote that? How to be a dad guide?
It's
Really?
it's like a comic. It's like comedic, and it's funny. Yeah, it's good.
Any useful tips at all in it?
Just don't drop the baby.
Just don't drop the. Really? I didn't know that was a thing.
Right.
All right, best movie you've watched in the last 6 months.
It's on a movie. It's Stranger Things, the fourth season. I'm a huge
Oh
fan.
man,
So
it's
yeah,
you know what? I'm a huge fan too. I
huge
cannot
fan.
stop watching that show.
Yeah,
It's
huge fan.
something else. All right, all right. I'll let that. Yeah, I wasn't in the movie, but I'm gonna let it slide. All right, best meal you've had in the last 6 months.
Ooh, I'm not gonna lie. My wife's bolognese from her grandmother. It's amazing.
Okay, I'm gonna give you that. You're the
Mm,
third person that's mentioned the significant other,
mm.
but you at least
Great cook.
identified a meal. You identified an
Yeah.
actual meal.
Bolognese. Yep.
All right, bolognese. And then lastly, best experience in the last 6 months?
Best experience in the last 6 months. Other than watching my son grow up right now, being 8 months old, I'm gonna have to say, um, really learning, learning. Every day with this new company, learning and talking to cardiologists, but learning in general is my best experience, encompassing experience.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Again, sage tool for people to take from, because that's key. When you have a position that you love, it's key to always be consistently learning. You'll always be on the cutting edge of it. Alex, it was awesome spending time with you, and
Likewise.
we're going to be watching you with iRhythm, doing your
Yep.
thing, and continue to enterprise yourself. We can't wait for more content on the LinkedIn platform. So thank you for the time today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam.
I enjoyed that episode. He gave us so much insight into what his career is in cardiovascular electrophysiology, insight into how people should approach medical sales reps that want to get into the industry, and of course, insight into how to powerfully avoid medical device sales burnout. And really, that can be applicable to any medical sales field, because burnout is real, it exists, and if you're not watching it, if you're not being honest with your leadership, it can happen to you. As always, we do our best to bring you innovative guests. And you might be listening to this specific innovative guest, and you might be thinking to yourself, wow, I would love to take my hand at cardiovascular electrophysiology. Or another type of medtech sales. Maybe medtech sales is your calling, and you really can see yourself in a role like what he described. Well, it's time to take action on those thoughts, take action on those dreams, and let's make something happen. Visit evolveyoursuccess.com and select Attain Medical Sales Role, submit an application, and let's have a conversation and see if we can get you into a role that leads you into a career just like what you heard today. And if you're out there in the field, maybe listening to this on your way to your next account, and you're wanting to improve your numbers, you want to be that 5%, maybe top 10% in your company, you want to get to Winner's Circle or President's Club, you finally want to make that happen, then visit evolveyoursuccess.com, select Improve Sales Performance, submit an application, and let's have a conversation. As always, we do our best to bring you guests that give you insight. So make sure you stay tuned for another episode of the Medical Sales Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.